There is much to be learned from people who have lived on this land much longer than we have. A knowledge that manifests itself not only in their relationships with nature, their songs and epics, their technology and creations, but in their very survival. Only by being aware of this heritage of the Indigenous can we find not only our roots, but our direction. Their pride and ours, captured in one word, Dayaw. Traditional knowledge has not only shaped the way our Indigenous people have survived. Time-tested methods of building, construction, and architectural ornamentation have also guaranteed the survival of our churches, administrative buildings, ancestral homes, symbols of our colonial heritage. But for how long? After the great earthquake hit the Visayas in 2013, the vulnerability of many colonial structures was laid shockingly and irreparably clear. Much still has to be done to restore the great churches of Bohol, Cebu, and many other places. And it is not just a matter of cementing everything over. If ever these structures are to be fully and truthfully restored, we must look to both past and present expertise to maintain the integrity of these sources of Dayaw, our knowledge, our pride. We all felt deeply disturbed upon viewing these images. The great churches of Lobok and Baclayon in Bohol in ruins. Nature had done in a few terrible minutes what war and revolution and centuries of devotion and daily use had failed to do. Laid waste to buildings that brought together faith, history, culture, art, and memory. As a concerned government agency struggled to rebuild these structures, one important observation comes to light. Conscientious restoration must take into consideration the sensibilities and shared memories of the community, while maintaining a building's historic and stylistic integrity.
This is a very, very opportune time to go back to our basics. Now, we have to know exactly how do we define our heritage. Is our heritage just the structure? Or is the heritage also the intangibles in the traditions of the community? When you talk about the church, do you talk about the stone? Do you talk about the timber only? Or do you talk about the processions and the masses and the marriages and all this? Is that the church structure is also as good as its technology? It's everything. There are just so many things that you have to research. So when your church gets declared by the National Historical Commission of the Philippines or the National Museum or NCCA, you don't just get declared just overnight. You submit this voluminous database about the structure, the measurements, the history, maybe the meaning to the people, all different aspects about that particular site. When many of the structures in Bohol fell, many structures have already been well documented. That's a very, very good scenario for what happened because finally we had something to work on.
Zerudo points out that it isn't just natural calamities that can obliterate heritage. Even more pressing is civil unrest and ideological conflict.
Now, many of our structures, whether here in the Philippines or abroad, because of the conflicts, the assaults, areas like in Syria, in Iraq, in Yemen, the burning of the Timbuktu libraries in Mali. All of this really provide us new ways of looking at it because you have to reconstruct it because these are memories of the people. People will try to regain back their memory, no? And their memory is very much attached to the fabric of that particular place. So these are new philosophies that will be evolving very soon. Memory, your idea of authenticity, that will be challenged.
In a time when nature's new norm includes earthquakes and storms of unimagined intensities, a visit to two important colonial heritage sites shows us just how much work has to be done to build the database and map the sites that should never, ever be just a memory. The jewel of Iloilo's heritage is the Augustinian Church in Miagao, dedicated to St. Thomas of Villanueva. Although his santo occupies the center niche, it is the relief directly above that is truly eye-catching. Here, St. Christopher is seen in a tropical landscape with papaya as he crosses the river bearing the child Jesus. The facade is a work of art that merited the church the distinction of being named to the UNESCO World Heritage List. The stone used was carbonaceous sandstone, a variety known for its honey color. In late afternoon, the light bathes the entire structure in a subtle reddish gold gleam.
Miagao Church was built starting in 1786 and it was finished in 1797. This was built for 11 years and so many men in this town labored to build this magnificent church. The stones were quarried about 18 kilometers away from the mountains of the neighboring town of Igbaras. Some of it were quarried from the barangays of Dingle and Calampitaw of this town. The stones are sandstone, but the carbonaceous type, which makes it honey-colored. And from the mountains, they cut it into big bricks and put it all together using egg white, lime, and sand, the combination of which we call mortar as adhesive. It's a little mystery how our ancestors were able to carve on sandstone because as of now, sandstone proves to be very vulnerable to metal. So when we use metal chisels to carve on sandstone, the tendency is for the sandstone to easily break. I think our ancestors were able to develop a kind of technology where the boulders of sandstone were immersed first on water to soften it a little bit, and then they carve it using heavy friction with wood materials. One of the geohazards recorded in this church is the settlement due to the accumulation of moisture. As we can see, the walls of this church are made of heavy-duty materials, but deep inside it are plain rubble and mixed stone materials. So it's very vulnerable to the trappment of moisture. And through the years, moisture is trapped inside, so it has to be let in order to declog the walls and to minimize the weight of the whole structure that goes against the soil underneath.
The Church of San Joaquin in Iloilo is another Augustinian jewel that must be preserved. The facade depicts a long-forgotten but important Spanish victory, the Battle of Tetuan in Morocco, in which the Moors were defeated. Built from coral stone in the 19th century, the story of its construction is part of the community memory.
This church was constructed using coral blocks hauled from Punta Malagting at Barangay Kataan, part of the town of San Joaquin. It was brought to this town using bamboo raft, and the San Joaquinons have to haul that from the water's edge all the way to the area where the church is now presently located. The bell tower was destroyed during the 1948 earthquake. But as of now, we were just trying to restore the facade. It was done through the supervision of the National Historical Commission of the Philippines, and we had to use the local materials to bring that back again. And we used a lot of lime and yellow sandstone and egg white to replace or restore the losses on the facade. And as regards to the color, we had to use the original material, or you have to be very, very close to the original material, which was used by the builder of this church. So to bring back the red tint, we had to use the red bricks we found all over the place, and the blue color used the blue Siwaragan stone we hauled from the river of Siwaragan. We had to use a bit of grumbacher to bring back the desired blue tint on the facade.
Two other churches in Iloilo have interesting restoration stories that point to racial memories as an important part of a heritage structure. The first is a Church of the Immaculate Conception in Oton.
The story of the image of the Immaculate Conception, as we can see right now, is that it protected the whole municipality, the whole town against typhoons, disasters, and a lot of calamities, as evidenced by the people, by the experiences of the modern generation, that even though there's Yolanda, Typhoon Frank, Typhoon Millenia, Oton was spared even though the neighboring towns were affected.
The Church of Santa Barbara, on the other hand, is memorable to the residents of the town because of its involvement in the socio-political upheaval of the Philippine Revolution.
It was constructed in 1849, led by the Augustinian Fathers. It was through forced labor, and the materials came from the town around Santa Barbara, namely Tubungan, Leon, Alimujan. Santa Barbara Church and Convent is considered as a National Historical Landmark, having served as the headquarters of the revolutionary movement under General Martin Teofilo Delgado during the Spanish time. And recently, it was also declared by the National Museum as a National Cultural Treasure.
Community and local government efforts will be very important in undertaking the cultural mapping that must be the norm for all heritage sites. Vigan in Ilocos Sur is one such exemplary site.
They put up convention centers based on their heritage. They put up conservation complexes based on their heritage. They did so many museums based on the maps that they were able to put together. They renewed many of the traditional crafts based on the heritage. No? So they deepened many of the researches. The moment the city becomes very active in terms of investment in tourism, the land prices shoot up. You couldn't get a piece of land now in that very prime space of Crisologo Street or any other place in Vigan. So it's very encouraging. It's a very good model.
We're thinking, Vigan doesn't have the beautiful beaches of Boracay, the beautiful mountain ranges of the Cordilleras. But we do have a very rich culture and history. Now, slowly, the Vigan houses have evolved back to what it was originally, because they were all shop houses. So shops on the ground and living quarters on the second floor. When we had a movement to have Vigan inscribed in the UNESCO World Heritage List, there were actually two things that they were looking into also. And one is that you have protective legislation. And the second one is that you have community participation.
Vigan and Iloilo are only 2 heritage sites in an archipelago so rich in important cities, towns, and structures. Through the efforts of the Escuela Taller, a new generation of craftsmen, artisans, and technicians are being prepared for the important work of preservation. At the Escuela Taller, young Filipinos can truly say that they have a firm stake in the past, and that modern technology and methods are their tools.
Escuela Taller was established in Spain in 1985 because they figured that they had a lot of problems of unemployment for the youth. And then at the same time, they had a lot of heritage structures that needed conservation. So they thought, why not marry the two? Escuela Taller here in Intramuros is the first in Asia. So this was established here in 2008, but we were inaugurated in 2009. And this is through the partnership of the Spanish government and the Philippine government. So there are 2 organizations who are actually supporting this school, namely the Agencia Española de Cooperación Internacional para el Desarrollo. That's the Spanish Agency for International Cooperation here in the Philippines. And the Philippine counterpart is the National Commission for Culture and the Arts. The courses that we offer here are related to construction. So we have masonry, carpentry, electrical plumbing, metalworks, and painting. So those 6 trades are what we offer here, but we have an additional specialization course, which is in traditional construction. We also add workshops or lessons they learn here are in traditional construction. For example, under masonry, the students not just learn how to construct using concrete and hollow blocks, but they learn how to work with stone, bricks, using the traditional methods of construction.
And then there are the young Filipinos whose talents are now being put to the service of heritage in the future.
Malaki po kasi yung pagkakaiba eh. Kasi po yung hawak po namin is napaka-importante po niyan. Heritage yan eh. Kailangan pangalagaan mo po talaga. Yung iba kasi construction as in magtatayo ng building, magtatayo ng kung ano-ano. Kami po kasi restoration, conservation. Kino-conserve po namin yung mga lumang simbahan para po mapanatili sila at mapaganda. Yung dati po, napapadaan po ako sa mga lumang simbahan, napapapasok po ako. Napapatingala po ako kung paano nila ginagawa, kung paano nila inuukit isa-isa yung mga ang hihirap na mga bato. Di ko po alam yung salitang adobe dati. Pag pumapasok ako, akala ko lang, concrete lang yan, ganun. Tapos po, nung pumasok po ako ng eskwela, talagang doon ko po nalaman yung kahalagahan niya, kung paano siya pangalagaan, kung paano siya i-handle ng maayos.
The restoration community or the people involved in restoration here are getting more and more engaged and committed to restoration work and conservation work. But of course, there is a lot of room for improvement. As I've always said, the realm of conservation here in the Philippines is still in its infancy stages. We still have a lot to learn. We need to be able to work together, create more synergies between the public institutions and the private sector, for example, in all these efforts that we're doing now.
The old techniques are very suited to our environment and our climate. We are an earthquake-prone region. That's why we cannot build structures using the European techniques. Walls cannot withstand earthquakes because walls, cement, stone walls, are very weak in tension. However, bamboo and wood, which we use in our houses, wood is very, very strong in tension. Wood doesn't easily collapse. just because of an earthquake. And this is very important because if you build traditional houses, you will not be a victim of earthquakes because the posts are made of wood or bamboo. They just sway with the earthquake. Many of our traditional ways of building churches, we made this earthquake Baroque style with very, very thick buttresses. And there, even if you use stone, very strong earthquake can just topple the walls because of the strong buttresses, like what you find in the Dayaw Church in Iloilo. This is what we call earthquake Baroque. In other words, there's wisdom in our traditional ways because they are adapted to our climate, not transplanted from other countries.
Imagine whole communities involved and engaged in the preservation of our heritage sites. Imagine government agencies working with these communities, as well as young Filipino craftsmen, skilled workers who utilize both traditional and state-of-the-art technology, all coming together in an effort that is respectful of the past and grounded in the present. A nation united in the conservation efforts of the heritage sites that are sources of Dayaw, our knowledge, our pride.